Today we're back with Marques talking about coordinating construction design early and why that's so important. We talked about this a lot on the show about bringing in your AV team as early as possible. There's a lot of decisions that you've got to make. And Marques, you were just at a job site and you are thinking about these kind of things, top of mind for you. Tell me about a little of this case study that you've got and why it's so important to bring in this design thinking as early as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was walking the site and it really hit me. I was talking to the GC, the lead from the GC team. We're walking around and he's showing me how the ceilings have been going in. And I said, oh, wait, we're supposed to be installing speakers in the ceilings. And he just looked at me and his face changed immediately. He said, are you just messing with me or are you serious? I said, I'm quite serious. In the scope, we're supposed to be adding it. So he pulls up his drawing set. I pull up my drawing set. Now, granted, we're late to the party. We weren't on the original design team with the architect and their team. And so, we're deep into construction right now, and now we're being brought in. And so he goes to show me there's an area of this building, and there's these custom, beautiful ceilings. And he said, we're going to have to cut all this open. And there's no conduit. There's no cable tray. There's no way for you to get cables to anything that's scheduled to go in this ceiling. I said, oh, well, that is definitely not the news I want to hear today. So we're both laughing at each other saying, well, I'm giving you bad news. You're giving me bad news. But this all could have been avoided. And they have been asking about it because they're trying to get eyes on the low voltage package. But this is a reality that owners and facility managers and architects will face if you don't bring in that low voltage package early in the design thinking process. And it starts really in the programming phase, right? We need to sit down, talk, listen. What are we trying to do? What are the services we want to provide in the building? What are the overall technical capabilities, not just for day one opening, but also in year 2 and year 3? A building grows and modifies and changes over time. So are we making sure that we're equipping it with the infrastructure to be ready, in year 3, because you're going to add, whatever it is you want to add because something changed about, the facilities management or, some of the process of getting people in and out of the space. So, and this is a significant, endeavor because, we still have to go back and draw more things, right? Because the design hasn't been approved. It hasn't been completed, but construction is full speed ahead right now. So this actually comes up in other spots in the building where they didn't account for necessarily our specific wall controllers. So now do you cut a box into the wall? Do you have time to try to get more conduit and, an official J-box location? And, how are we going to deal with all this? And time is really of the essence once construction starts because, again, we're behind the 8 ball. And he just shared with me, he said, well, in about 2 weeks, we're dropping in the rest of the ceiling and paint. I said, oh, wow. Okay. I said, just one of those moments of, okay, well, we are where we are right now. So what do we do? Yeah. And so this is one of those cases where the problem we're facing today is relatively expensive. So either you have to compromise on the design and you don't do a few things. You take the hit to rework the walls and the ceiling to open them up and put in the infrastructure. Something has to give on the process. But all these decisions and all these talking points that are coming up now are things that should have been discussed, a year ago or 2 years ago as the building is being drawn, as the layouts are happening for the room design. During the design phase really is when all that should have come up, and we could have caught it during maybe schematic design as soon as that, as far as putting pen to paper and starting to drop things in so everyone's on the same page. But, here we are. We're basically in construction administration. If you're an architect, the phases. So we're in the construction administration phase. The building is up. The shell is up. They're just, pushing along and it's scheduled to open, I think, in about 5 months than when the building's open. So it's really, it's really a lot to try to catch up. And then just understand how do you navigate this financially and from a project management standpoint.
Yeah, because I imagine, everything's a waterfall. So if you got to halt something now or redo something now, it pushes everything back. So
it does.
I want to ask, what happens now? What's the process now? Obviously, you kind of laid out some of the highlights of that, but how does that impact the rest of the project? Like you said, financially, or maybe the way that the construction teams pulling things together, the GCs, you guys coming in. And then what I want to do is circle back, what should we have done? What have been the process? And again, you kind of gave it an overview of that there, but how could we have done this differently? And how would that have impacted maybe the budget of the building, the speed of getting it up and that kind of thing?
Right. So what we have to do now, no matter, unless they scrap the entire plan, what ends up happening now is rework. Rework is the enemy of project management and those that have to manage budgets. So first and foremost, oftentimes you want to try to do the work without stopping, but no matter what you do, there's a bit of a delay because you have to open something up. You need the teams to have time to come in, do their work for all your subs, and then you have to then close up the walls and ceiling again. So you're talking about labor, right? So there's cost of labor to actually do all this physical work to make this happen. Talking about material costs for any additional raceway, conduit, boxes, just infrastructure hardware. Then you're also talking about a delay to the schedule because now, even if everyone's working overtime, there's most likely going to be a delay to do this reworking. So you've got a time impact and you've got a monetary impact, and you potentially will have a final design impact if those costs are so high that the ownership group or the design group says, you know what? No, that's too far out. That's too far out of scope as far as where we want to be with our budget. We need to rethink this. And again, if you're not going to do it on day one, the odds of it happening, in year 2 or year 3 are slim because now your building is going to be occupied and you're not going to shut down a building, once it opens up to do this kind of a thing, unless it's a major planned renovation. So right away, that's what we're looking at. And those are the discussions. And those are always, tough discussions because everyone on the owner side has an idea about when the building is going to be ready. Everyone's excited about it opening, excited about, the new capabilities and the new opportunities to for the users to come in and use the spaces. But those are the real conversations that have to, be had. And just even the meetings take time, right? So that's taking time away from other things that should be happening across the team.
Yeah, dang. I mean, now you can't even do your job, really. I mean, your team can't even come in because there's such a delay now. So,
correct.
Yeah, that's tough. Okay. So what would you have done going back? You mentioned bring us in early at the design phase, but I mean, I know there's a lot more steps than that. Like what does this look like, and what would be the impacts of that if we could go back and do it again?
If we could do it all over again, we would jump in, I'd say, at a minimum in design developments. So for short, everyone calls it the DD phase. That's really the minimum of when you want your low voltage to be there. Ideally, again, it's going to be in programming or during schematic design, because that's when we're writing up a narrative, we're making sure we capture the functionality, and then we're translating those thoughts, showing, photos. We'll, in a narrative, have a description of what's happening, but we'll also show photos of common parts, pieces, just so an owner gets an idea of, okay, what will this look like?
Yeah.
Well, then from there, once you get into past schematic design and into DDs, well, now we start putting pen to paper, having some things dropped in place. So that way, everyone, when they see it, they'll be on the same page about, oh, I need 5 speakers in this ceiling. Okay, well, I've got to get cable to those. Well, not just cable and initial install. For long-term support, we need to cut in access hatches and all these other things to modify the ceiling to make sure this is a space that's usable over time. Because, things happen. Say there's a leak, a speaker gets damaged, and you have to replace it. If you don't include any access hatches or any way to get above the ceiling, what do? Right? You can't actually service this. Or if you do, it becomes a future nightmare because same thing I described before about opening up a ceiling. Well, now you're going to do it if you want that to be functional.
That is a lot. Okay. There's this great blog that actually comes to mind. I think I mentioned it on the show before. I talk about it all the time. It's called The Work is Never Just the Work by a guy named Dave Stewart. And he goes in and just talks through all the things that go into a project management. And it's mostly related to software development. But in this case, it's the same. It's 90% of what you need to do is actually not the hands to the wires or to the ceiling. It's way, way before that in the design phase. But 100%. With that, there's a lot of people that you need to coordinate. So who all needs to know all of this information? Like break me down there. So you're back in that, not programming, but even before that, the DD phase. Who all needs to be abreast on your designs and through this thinking?
Yeah. So typically, what we'll see in the architectural process is once they hit the DD phase, so design development. So you got to think about the team, especially on a large scale. This project we're working on is hundreds some odd $1 million probably. In total spend for this building. So what happens is there's an architectural team. They're going to be partnered with the ownership group. So on your ownership side, you may have the technology team, the users of the space, the overall owner, their architectural representatives, their project managers. That's just on the who we call the owner group. All right. So then the architects group, architects, they're awesome. They have great partners. So on the architectural team, you're going to have your architect, you're going to have your MEP firm, you're going to have, you have your, sometimes MEP can be broken apart. So you may have just mechanical, electrical under different partners. Low voltage, they're thinking about us early, right? Your low voltage team is there, your landscape development team. And I think those are the big players you always going to want to be there because there's a lot that goes into putting up a building, and the architect coordinates all of it. So all of these groups are going to be involved in laying it out, putting it in there. And I wasn't even thinking about, say there's a kitchen in your space. Well, you have teams that specialize in kitchen design, and that's a whole thing. I'm on another project right now where there's a kitchen involved in grease traps, and it's just, amazing all of what is happening to have a kitchen and be able to have a restaurant embedded inside of a building. So all of those teams work under the architect. So there's just a ton of coordination going on. I have a project right now. There's probably, I think, 34 email addresses on the coordination meetings that we have once a week for all the various trades. Because even within those trades, on our own team, I may head up some of the design while I have someone else doing the BIM coordination. So they're doing basically, all the modeling in the building. I have someone else vetting, the design work. Have someone else that's looking at the specification writing. And that's just for the low voltage, AV and technology side. That's not including all of it because now you have your access control, you have your security, you have your actual telecom that comes into the building and all that. They're all different skill sets bundled under that low voltage umbrella. So there's a lot that's going on, to really get a building up out of the ground. And all of those teams are coordinating. And that's all before you ever get the general contractor involved. That's just in the bones and putting together the building. And I'm sorry, I left out interiors. They're also critical. They're a subset of architecture where, they're looking at, fits, finishes, sometimes furniture, art, all of those things being coordinated. Because you may say, okay, I want an art piece on this wall. Well, I need a fire strobe there. Oh, wait, well, I needed a occupancy sensor there. Oh, wait, that's the wall that I thought we were putting a display on. That's why we have all these folks working together. So a really high-powered, high-quality architect, they're going to drive that process and make sure, everyone's drawings are put together. They're in sync. We're going through it. And with the rise of, BIM and, three-dimensional modeling, those changes over time have been, I think, outstanding from everyone. So now, take us for instance. If we say we have a giant projection screen going in the ceiling, we actually put that three-dimensional model into the building. Okay, so now everyone can see it. So electrical and plumbing know how to go around it. So that way everyone's in the same spot because what you want to avoid is you show up on site one day to install your screen and there's literally a plumbing pipe running right where your screen was supposed to go. So that's how we're avoiding a lot of that now. So folks working in, the BIM space will know that right away. As far as yep, that's why that's critical. So you can catch all that coordination early. So before you ever get the construction documents or the CD phase, if you've done a lot of this in the DD phase, you're going to be pretty prepped. So you'll have adjustments along the way. You'll always have modifications, budgetary changes, but at least, the major structural components, you'll have them accounted for.
And then you get to the GC and their subs and dump trucks and cranes and excavators and builders and concrete and all of that, right?
And then you're all working from that same set of drawings. So it's like, okay, do we have everything? So for example, today I met with the GC. He had his drawings up. I had mine up. I said, no, mine are preliminary. They haven't even been issued out yet. They're not officially real. It was just a pricing set. He said, oh man, I just had another set of drawings that took all of these components out of the ceiling. I said, well, I'm going to be putting many of those components right back into the ceiling.
My gosh. Well, it sounds like a headache for the architect,
It could be a challenge. I give architects all the credit in the world, man, because to coordinate all those details, and they have, great people on their teams so that everyone is reviewing a certain area and they all coordinate it and work together.
I've come to really love project management and appreciate it. It's like one of the most important skills. Like if you don't do that well, nothing else makes sense. And now, my projects are, podcasts and websites and things like that, way small, but it's 10 people are involved. Right. I gotta coordinate, but doing dozens, hundreds and many millions and millions of dollars, that'd be hard.
Yeah. I once did a project and we're going along and someone made a comment of, hey, this wall is slightly off. And the whole room stopped. It was like, these things happen. And I'm just like, oh man, wait, what just happened here? Yeah, this wall is off by about 6 inches. And that's a massive impact to a project. So, and it was just a miss. It was, in the coordination, it just got missed.
No.
Something changed and was slightly off.
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
no.
So
Okay.
I cannot overstate the importance of, what architects are bringing to the table when it comes to that coordination.
Yeah.
Your best architectural teams that I've seen, not to, pull anyone down, but the best teams I see, they're very skilled when it comes to just the coordination process of bringing all those teams together. And even with Teams and Zoom and Meet and whatever, if you can do a lot of this virtual, there is something to be said for bringing us all together into a room and just having like a page flip process where we just kind of work through it, because some of the times that just spurs some ideas instantly in the room about what's going on.
Yeah, where my mind goes, and this is probably silly, they work at such a different scale, but what project management tool are they using? Is it Linear, Asana, Monday? And how do you get all these external people to have access to the same information? Like, that is such a headache. But I think AI is helping a lot with that. But anyway, that's where my brain goes. It's like, it's an enormous, enormous cost to the business and something you got to figure out. So anyway.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. So what is your team doing now? So, now, next on this project, next week, you guys are like, all right, well, what are we going to do here?
First things first, are we doing it or not? That's always the big one.
Yeah.
Everyone talks to us about it, but are we moving forward or not? But, for us, it will be full steam ahead, 100 miles an hour, getting a design done, because again, our design is not done. So if the design's not done, we can't just wing it. Right, we can't just buy a bunch of parts and pieces and start trying to do this thing. Yeah. So for us, if we get the green light, it will literally be, all right, let's stop everything for part of our team, just design this, push it out as fast as we can, make sure we don't miss anything, because you won't have a lot of room for error at this point, because again, we're so far behind as far as the design process and where it should be when you match it up with the state of the building right now. So that'll be how we try to catch it up, do the design, make sure we catch any changes, from a project standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint, so we can alert the owner, get their blessing. And if they sign off, then we're full speed ahead, prepping, because it still takes time, right? We don't just keep all this stuff in the closet in our building. So we're working with manufacturers, get it all here, get it all configured, get all the configuration done before we ever step foot on site to start pulling cable.
Dang. Well, good luck to you. That sounds amazing. Okay. Anything else you think the audience needs to know about, what you guys are working on the coordination side?
No, I don't think so. I think that's the biggest thing is, as we're moving further and further into the BIM space, I know for our team, and I'm sure other teams are as well, that's one of the biggest things about having a partner, a skilled AV partner that, again, we understand how to get in and out. We understand the architectural phases, have a great understanding of how to manipulate those models to make sure everything is going correctly. And so we can catch things right away. And also, one thing that was new for me this week, standards from a global entity. So we're doing some support on a design for a hotel, and they're part of a global brand. And it's like, hey, this global brand has certain standards. So as the design is happening, as we're taking on the low voltage portion technology, we may see something in their standards and say, hey, FYI, you asked us to put a piece of equipment here. According to these standards, it can't go there. So let's stop now. So that's just more coordination that has to happen. So as we deal with folks that are global entities and that they have these spaces and these requirements, that's a big thing for us to make sure we account for.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah, like brand guidelines for a brand 100%. Or website or something. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm very glad that you have a good team supporting you. And so, for those who are listening and need to bring in a good team early, Contech.com. These guys will get you sorted because they do this all the time. So, Marques, thank you so much for this quick hitter case study on what you guys are dealing with now. So, hopefully this project gets resolved and we'll bring in design as early as possible.
Absolutely. We'll make it happen. One way or another, we'll make it happen.
That's great. I love it. All right, man. Well, we will see you next time. Thanks, y'all.
All right.